A rapper on trial for murder walks out of a courthouse a free man.
Tonight, charged in the shooting death of a student, how the case against him fell apart. Good evening. He's known in the rap world as Top 5, but his real name is Hassan Ali.
He was arrested for murder 3 years ago, but today his trial came to an abrupt end before it even really began. CTV's Rahim Ladani joins us live from the University Avenue Courthouse with the reasons why. Rahim.
Michelle and Nathan, good evening. There was absolute shock in the courthouse when the Crown attorney announced that they would not be moving forward with the trial. Now, that decision was made after the justice ruled certain evidence would be inadmissible. Hours after Hassan Ali left the courthouse, he posted on Instagram where he thanked Toronto rapper Drake for paying for his legal fees. That post has now been deleted. Walking out of the courthouse on his own, Hassan Ali, also known as rapper Top 5, maintains his innocence 3 years after being charged with first-degree murder in the death of 20-year-old Hashim Omar Hashi.
I'm going to go chill with my boy Drake all night, man. And I'm going to pray to God all night. Allahu Akbar.
Have you and Drake been in contact? Has he been
all
supporting
day.
you?
It's been supporting me to the max.
Hashi was gunned down in January of 2021 while waiting to enter the parking garage of his building near Jane and Falstaff. According to court documents, Ali is believed to be a member of the Go Get 'Em gang, and he was in the back seat of a Honda Civic along with 2 other people that night. It was alleged they were seeking revenge for the killing of Ali's brother, but gunned down Hashi in what appeared to be a case of mistaken identity. Police have said Hashi was a student who had no connections to the criminal world.
I'm an innocent man. Hope they find whoever did that. I'm an innocent man, you know what I mean?
Are you a gang member?
No.
In an unexpected development, the Crown attorney stood up in court announcing the first-degree murder charge against Ali would be stayed after a pre-trial ruling by Justice Andrew Schreck last week. The case fell apart after Ali's rap lyrics and social media videos were ruled inadmissible.
The only run I know is the treadmill.
The Crown said it has become clear that crucial evidence in its case has been excluded.
They were alleging he was the mastermind from the backseat, again, based only on his lyrics, based only on his rap, based only on his persona as Top 5. That was the problem with their case all along.
In 2023, Ali recorded a music video while in custody at Maplehurst Correctional Complex. In it, Top 5 raps.
I was 18 when I bought a gun. 22 when I shot your son.
It's all fake, cap.
The term cap is slang for the word lie.
The problem about prosecuting artists like Mr. Ali based on their music is it fails to understand what the medium is.
With the Crown having stayed the charges, some believe it sends the wrong message.
Rather than kids, learning their reading, writing, and arithmetic, they're learning that they can, outsmart the system.
Ali says he now plans to go back to making music. The charges have been stayed. What that means is that prosecutors can bring the charges back before the court within a year. Reporting live, I'm Rahim Ladani. Michelle, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Rahim. Still ahead, who steals a taxi? Toronto police released video of the suspect behind the wheel of a stolen cab. The strange story coming up. But first, we turn to a legal battle underway over a law allowing Ontario hospitals to place patients into long-term care homes they did not choose.
The controversial legislation was implemented in 2022, aimed at freeing up beds in overcrowded hospitals. CTV's Sean Leathong joins us live with the details. Sean.
Well, Nathan and Michelle, lawyers for the Ontario Health Coalition told stories today about patients who were separated from their family in places that were supposed to be temporary. Some patients dying in those homes, and they say that was unconstitutional. Challenging a law that allows patients to be sent from hospitals to long-term care homes not of their choosing. A group called the Ontario Health Coalition is arguing that the More Beds, Better Care Act, or Bill 7, is violating patients' rights to privacy and informed consent.
This law targets elderly patients and deprives them of rights that every other patient enjoys.
Passed in 2022, the law focuses on patients deemed needing alternate level of care and can be sent to a long-term care facility sometimes 70 kilometers away for Southern Ontario and 150 kilometers away for the North. Beyond that, patients can be charged $400 a day if they refuse to go to a long-term care home.
One of our witnesses has been married for 62 years. their spouse was moved to a long-term care home that she couldn't go to. She'd have to rely on volunteers, on neighbors, and pay a driver to get there. Couldn't stay as long as she wanted to, couldn't go as often as she wanted to. Her husband would call for her incessantly.
The court challenge will have to answer the question whether patient flow has improved since Bill 7 was passed. In a statement, a representative for Health Minister Sylvia Jones said, Bill 7 ensures Ontarians are receiving the care they need in a setting that is right for them and brings Ontario in line with several other provinces that have had similar policies in place for decades. No patients are added without their consent. All placement in non-preferred home is temporary until a spot in a preferred home becomes available. The statement also points out that the ALC discharge volume is 34% better than 5 years ago.
Hospital is not the place to drop off your mother or your father. They don't get the care, and they aren't equipped to take care of them like a long-term care home.
The Ontario government saying that over the past 2 years, over 31,000 patients have been discharged to long-term care homes.
Bring them to a real home, a long-term care home, and it frees up the acute care beds for people that really, really need them.
So the hearing will take place over 2 days, with the Ontario Health Coalition making their arguments today. Tomorrow, the Ontario government's lawyers will make their arguments before getting a decision later on. Reporting live, I'm Sean Neathong. Nathan and Michelle, send it back to you.
All right. Thank you, Sean. Also tonight, Premier Ford weighs in on encampments, offering his take on how to get people to leave. The comments and backlash in moments.
But first, a look at the forecast as we embark on our first full week of fall, and looking pretty dark out there this hour. We got a good dose of rain today, and these unsettled conditions will persist for right now. Looking cloudy. Are you seeing any rain there, Jess?
We're holding on okay right now. We've seen some light drizzle. The heavier rain was earlier on this morning, even causing some localized flooding. We're currently just seeing that real dark sky, and the heavier rain really comes late Tuesday into Wednesday. But we are under this system for the next couple of days, so just keep the rain gear handy. Heading into the evening, the bulk of the commute for many people is going to be dry, and then as we head into the day tomorrow, much the same, but we are looking at just bouts of showers off and on. Temperature-wise, we're in the upper teens, low 20s. It's still quite humid out there. We haven't seen too much relief when it comes to that heat. Temperature-wise, through the islands and Pearson, 20 degrees apiece, but still feeling into the mid-20s. And tonight, we're staying about 7 degrees above seasonal, and no matter which way the wind blows, it is still quite warm. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast. We'll break down how long the system is set to stick around and what we can expect throughout the rest of the week. But right now, it's back over to Nathan and Michelle.
Thank you, Jess. The Premier is coming under fire tonight for some off-the-cuff comments about people living in encampments in Ontario.
The remarks made at a housing announcement in Cobourg. Our Queen's Park Bureau Chief, Siobhan Morris, joins us live with the story. Siobhan.
Well, the Premier's comments have sparked anger, frustration, hurt, though we are hearing some messages of support. As you mentioned, the Premier was in Cobourg this afternoon to make an announcement putting money into improving water systems. The hope is that that can help with construction of more homes. A reporter asked what this could all do to get people off the waiting list for affordable housing. In that region, that's more than 1,000 families. The Premier talked about some of the investments that have been made, but then came some tough talk that opposition MPPs have come right back with.
Do you know what the best way to get people be able to get out of the encampments, get out of homeless? Get an application and drop it off one of these companies and start working. You need to start working if you're healthy. Bottom line, if you're unhealthy, I'll take care of you the rest of my life. Your life will take care of you. But if you're healthy, get off your ASS and start working like everyone else is.
Doug Ford just had one of his biggest ASS moments. People are in encampments and they are homeless because rents have skyrocketed by 83% since he took power. It's because he's gutting programs like ODSP and Ontario Works. It's because he's allowed the cost of living to spiral out of control. And it's because he has underfunded shelters that are now all over capacity.
The leader of the NDP has called the Premier's comments heartless and out of touch. We've been hearing from MPPs who talk about trying to help constituents in their communities who are struggling to afford housing with 2, sometimes even 3 jobs. As for the people who aren't healthy, who can't work, the Premier says he's going to protect people who are on ODSP or Ontario Works. They say they're not getting enough help either. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Now to the streets in the ongoing battle against congestion in Toronto.
It's being called a crisis. Commute times drastically impacting the quality of life here. The city says it has a plan, but will it actually get vehicles moving again? CTV's Natalie Johnson joins us live with the story. Natalie.
Well, Nathan, there will be a lot of backseat drivers on this traffic plan as it gets debated at City Hall, and some of it will depend on if and how the province decides to take the wheel. As City Hall revs up the rhetoric on Toronto traffic, the head of the region's Board of Trade, who has called this city's congestion a crisis,
what you see changing,
says there is promise in the latest plan.
The big question for me is, is it the appetizer or is it the main course?
On Friday, the city unveiled its big picture strategy for unlocking gridlock, which includes higher fines for drivers who block lanes of traffic and intersections and better coordinated closures and construction.
The issue is going to be how fast can they move on it.
That timing will depend in part on Queen's Park. The city is seeking provincial permission to employ more automated enforcement cameras for more traffic offences, including using dash cams on TTC vehicles to catch the drivers who break the rules.
Has the province, though, signaled its support for the automated enforcement piece?
They're looking at it. We need the cameras. We are talking seriously about the cameras and the dash cams.
Meanwhile, the province has traffic management plans of its own, considering limiting where cities can install bike lanes.
Making sure you aren't putting bike lanes in the middle of some of the busiest streets in the country. Put them on the secondary roads. You don't clog up traffic just because of their political beliefs.
We've had very good partnership with the provincial government. I'll be very surprised if they do something without any consultation with the City of Toronto.
You're seeing in some cases great use of bike lanes. We completely applaud that. But we're also seeing cases where, frankly, food service companies are essentially using the bike lanes. That's it. Meanwhile, cars are backed up for miles, and commutes are getting horrific.
The question is now whether the city can finesse the formula for easing Toronto traffic and lose the label of congestion crisis. And just in from the province, a statement from the Transportation Minister's office to CTV News that says at this time, we are not looking at expanding the use of automated enforcement beyond what is currently prescribed in the Highway Traffic Act. This could be a big blow to the city's congestion plan. We'll have to see how this one plays out. Reporting live, I'm Natalie Johnson. Michelle, over to you.
Thank you, Natalie. And a note to subway riders, Line 2 trains will stop running between Victoria Park and Kennedy stations at 11 p.m. tonight through to Thursday. Shuttle buses will operate instead, and today marked the start of a new phase of construction at Spadina Station. The TTC says escalators between the streetcar level and Line 2 will be shut down one at a time and replaced, with that work expected to last into early 2027.
Toronto police are on the hunt for a suspect accused of stealing a taxi cab.
Security footage shows a woman behind the wheel of the stolen vehicle, and now police are trying to identify her. CTV's Beth McDonnell reports.
In the video supplied by Toronto police, the female suspect is seen driving the Toyota Camry taxicab officers say she stole from Bay Street and Lakeshore Boulevard. Just moments before, police say the driver had pulled over at the intersection and, with the keys still in the ignition and the door unlocked, got out to throw away garbage.
When he turned around, he saw that his vehicle was going southbound on Bay Street. Police were called. We have not been able to identify the female suspect.
The theft happened September 7th, shortly before 1 in the morning. Taxi drivers who spoke with CTV News outside Union Station say they're not aware of a surge of taxi cab thefts similar to this one, but there is anxiety about the potential for carjackings.
Everybody should be careful. That's it.
I go even the Tim Horton by the coffee or go for a washroom, make sure I lock the door and I look behind many times.
While some believe it's not responsible to suddenly pull over.
I don't just jump from the street and throw the garbage and leave my car engine on.
To increase safety, police say keep doors locked, don't leave the car running or unattended, conceal valuables, and park responsibly in well-lit areas.
These circumstances can happen if you give someone an opportunity.
For added protection, this driver has a camera hooked up directly with his insurance company, so they can be notified immediately about a theft. But he believes more could be done to increase peace of mind.
I would like to see the police officers frequently present themselves, especially in the downtown core, because barely after 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I see any police officers are cruising around.
That's the problem we have.
He says drivers are nervous about people who are drunk or high jumping in their vehicles. As for the female suspect behind the wheel of the stolen taxi, police are hoping someone will recognize her and contact them. The Camry was recovered hours later near Richmond Street and Bathurst Street. Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
Meanwhile, Toronto police are sharing new details about a robbery call in the TTC that left a responding officer with injuries. Police say a person with a gun robbed a victim on the subway platform at Bloor Yonge Station around 1 a.m. Saturday. Officers pursued the suspect onto the tracks to make an arrest. One officer suffered non-life-threatening injuries in the process. 30-year-old Shaquille Miller of Toronto now faces several gun and weapons charges and 2 counts of assaulting a police officer.
In Brampton, a Toronto police officer is on trial accused of assaulting a young man while off duty 3 years ago. The 19-year-old later died. CTV's John Musselman reports.
Family and friends of 19-year-old Chad Facey filled a Brampton courtroom today for the start of the criminal trial of Toronto police officer Calvin Aw. In an agreed statement of facts, Constable Aw was off duty. He and another off-duty police officer agreed to meet up with Facey in Brampton to buy an Apple Watch he posted online. Aw's partner handed over $400, but the watch turned out to be fake. According to tribunal documents, Facey was chased and taken to the ground. Shortly after, Facey was taken to Brampton Civic Hospital, where he later died. Today, his sister and his best friend took the stand. Both described seeing Facey after his meeting with the off-duty cops. They told the court Facey was short of breath and had a large bump on his head. But under cross-examination, defense lawyer Peter Browdy suggested Facey and his friend knew this was a rip-off right from the start. Facey's friend testified he was limping and he was out of breath. He had a knot on his head. Peter Browdy, I'm going to suggest that you knew Chad was going to sell a fake Apple Watch, and he has done it before on previous occasions. The friend, quote, no. Aw faces a charge of assault causing bodily harm. He was originally facing charges of manslaughter and aggravated assault. According to the agreed statement of facts, the Crown is not in a position to allege that Facey's death was caused by an interaction with Aw. Aw has pleaded not guilty. The trial by judge alone continues tomorrow. John Musselman, CTV News in Brampton.
Jacob Hogarth's sexual assault trial in Northern Ontario got underway today. The former Headley frontman pleaded not guilty to a sexual assault charge stemming from an alleged incident in Kirkland Lake in June of 2016. Jury selection is now underway for the trial, to be followed by the presentation of arguments and evidence. The trial is taking place in the community of Haileybury in Temiskaming Shores. It's expected to last roughly 1 week.
The battle over Saskatchewan's pronoun policy is back in the spotlight as the matter heads to the province's appeal court. The policy requires parental consent before children under 16 can change their names or pronouns at school. The new rules were quickly challenged in court by advocates who work with trans and gender-diverse youth, who warned it could put their safety at risk. Saskatchewan's government then enshrined the policy in law and invoked the notwithstanding clause to prevent charter challenges. A judge later ruled the challenge should still have its day in court.
Your Pride's position is that the court retains an important role when the government chooses to violate the charter rights of young people or any part of the population.
We are in favor of parental rights, of involving parents, of including parents in key decisions and life decisions involving their children.
The dispute is in court today and tomorrow, but a decision may be sometime away. The matter is being closely watched by provinces advancing similar pronoun policies like New Brunswick and Alberta.
As world leaders gather in New York ahead of the United Nations General Assembly meeting, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau met with his Haitian counterpart.
And continue to be there as Canada has been to support not just his excellent work, but the work that the international community is doing to support.
After his talks with acting PM Gary Coney, Justin Trudeau called on countries to work together on a plan to address Haiti's overlapping security, political, and humanitarian crises. Later on, he met with Nobel Peace Prize laureate Malala Yousafzai and attended a working luncheon hosted by German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. Trudeau is also appearing tonight on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert.
I hope that members will conduct themselves in a manner that is befitting of our constituents who have sent us here to represent them.
House of Commons Speaker Greg Fergus called for better behavior from MPs going forward. This comes after a heated exchange last week between Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre and NDP leader Jagmeet Singh that the parties blamed on one another. While debate took place in Parliament today, tomorrow the Tories will have a chance to advance that non-confidence motion in the minority Liberal government. The NDP and the Bloc Québécois say they won't support that effort.
Now to the situation in the Middle East. Lebanon's health ministry says nearly 500 people have been killed in a wave of Israeli airstrikes.
Israel says it's targeting Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah, which has intensified its own rocket fire across the border. CTV's Adrian Gobriel is following the story.
As the sounds of war echo across the border shared by Israel and Lebanon, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu gave this message to Lebanese people living in that country's southern region.
Get out of harm's way. I urge you, take this warning seriously.
And thousands have. Gridlock took hold as families fleeing to northern Lebanon made the slow, desperate commute. This father saying, there were strikes there, so we got in the car. Like many, they're headed to Beirut. Though Lebanon's capital city has also become a target in recent days. Netanyahu blaming Hezbollah for using members of the public as human shields.
It placed rockets in your living rooms and missiles in your garage. Those rockets and missiles are aimed directly at our cities, directly at our citizens.
Sunday morning, Hezbollah claimed responsibility for firing these rockets deep into northern Israel near Haifa.
This has now become a full-fledged war between Israel and Hezbollah.
Israel's defense force claiming that in the last day alone, it's been able to destroy tens of thousands of rockets, as well as infrastructure that they say Hezbollah has been building for decades. The spark that lit this latest round of warfare, Israel's ongoing response to the October 7th attack by Hamas. We're still believed to be holding roughly 100 hostages in Gaza.
With the threat of a wider regional war, many are still processing the fallout from last week's deadly pager explosions in Lebanon by Israel, with the former director of the CIA, Leon Panetta, calling it a form of terrorism. Adrian Gobriel, CTV News, Toronto.
New revelations from south of the border as authorities investigate the second assassination attempt on former U.S. President Donald Trump. Prosecutors said the suspect, Ryan Ruth, wrote a chilling letter months earlier describing an assassination attempt and urging others to, quote, finish the job. Ruth is charged with 2 gun crimes after he allegedly pointed a rifle through the tree line on September 15th while Trump was playing golf at his course in West Palm Beach. Prosecutors also said they plan to charge Ruth with attempting to assassinate a major political candidate, which would come with a life sentence if he's found guilty.
The surviving co-founder of OceanGate, the company behind the doomed Titan submersible, testified today at a hearing investigating last year's underwater implosion.
This shouldn't have happened. 5 people should not have lost their lives. 4 families should not be mourning their loved ones.
Guillermo Schonlein denied claims that the company put money over science and said his co-founder, Stockton Rush, convinced him they could develop and build their own subs. A catastrophic implosion killed Rush and 4 others last summer. Schonlein left the company a decade before that deadly dive. He says he hopes the tragedy yields renewed interest in exploration.
2 Russian cosmonauts and an American astronaut are back on Earth after a Soyuz capsule traveling from the International Space Station landed in Kazakhstan. The capsule successfully touched down about 3.5 hours after undocking from the ISS. The 2 Russians are back on Earth after a record 374 days aboard the space station. American astronaut Tracy Dyson was up in space for 6 months.
Coming up, he is the face of our collective hatred of snow shoveling, a viral sensation who turned his exasperation during a snowstorm into a future in front of the camera. We catch up with Carlo Trezzolo, who got his start right here on CTV.
Now, that was a really cool story. No snow just yet, but we are watching for some active weather as we settle in towards our week ahead, and it's not going anywhere for a little while, so keep that rain gear handy. The good news is at least we're staying relatively close to seasonal. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast, and stay with us. We have another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
As tens of thousands of nursing positions go unfilled across the country, healthcare facilities have turned to private nursing agencies to address the shortage.
Now, a new study suggests the cost of that quick fix is rising rapidly. CTV's Judy Trin has the details.
Since the COVID pandemic, hospitals to long-term care centers have been relying more on private agencies to deal with the nursing shortfall. In 2020, public health care facilities were spending about $250 million annually on private nurses. That grew during the pandemic and kept ballooning to an estimated $1.5 billion this year, a 600% increase, making the quick staffing fix unsustainable.
Every morning, every shift, there's a nurse manager somewhere that has to fill a shift, and there's no one to call. So it's a lot easier for them to call the 1-800 number and get an agency nurse to come, regardless of the price, regardless of their experience, or if they know the facility.
According to Statistics Canada, on any given day, there are more than 43,000 nursing jobs that need to be filled. The study's author, a former nurse turned professor, says money needs to be put into recruiting nurses and improving their working conditions.
Imagine what we would be doing with $1.5 billion. You know, what strategies could have been put in place for retention of nurses? What quality of care could have been provided?
The average wage for a nurse in Canada is about $65 an hour. Private agency fees are about the same in Manitoba, but in Ontario, agencies can charge $195 an hour, and in Newfoundland Labrador, a whopping $312 an hour. There are more than 470 private nursing agencies in Canada. The exorbitant fees surprise companies that are trying to act responsibly.
That greed is not within the overall mission of trying to provide the best care for everybody.
Advocates are calling for the gradual phase-out of private nursing agencies. Until that happens, they want limits put on what they can charge and regulations to ensure that Canadian taxpayers are getting qualified care at a sustainable price. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
All right, we're into the fall season now. Still warm out there, but we're dealing with some rain in some areas.
I think that was a silver lining today. At least it wasn't too cold, but certainly, we got a lot of rain, and then it's dark. It really seems dark now, and I know we're losing sunlight as we dive into fall. You know, we had such a long, sunny stretch. This just feels so dramatic on the opposite end of the scale, but we haven't had rain in quite some time. We had rain to start the month, and it's really been quite dry. So the rain is needed, but we are going to see the sunshine return as we head in towards that kind of end point of the week. But we are looking at this unsettled weather sticking with us from today right through to about Wednesday. So just keep that in mind when it comes to your travel plans. But we've seen a few sunny breaks throughout our day. It hasn't been a wash by any means. Early on this morning, we saw that heavier rain. There's a really cool time lapse from out towards Whitby. We saw those brief kind of glimpses of blue sky, and it was so nice. But they were few and far between as we made our way throughout the day today. But Nathan's right. We stayed quite mild, all things considered. It was closer to seasonal when you look at that base temperature, but you factor in the humidex, and it still felt into the mid to upper 20s for a good portion of the day, at least for Southern Ontario and the GTA. We're sitting at 20 right now. It still feels like 26, and we don't lose a lot of that warmth as we head into this evening either. Sitting at 17, we should be at 10. Everybody well above that seasonal mark. Bancroft should be at 6. They'll sit at 14. Areas through Waterloo, they should be at 8, and they'll sit at 16. So we're all comfortably above that seasonal mark, even with a more northeasterly flow to the winds heading into this evening. Tonight, we are going to kind of stay mild. Tomorrow, it's almost identical. We'll sit at seasonal, but we'll feel a little bit warmer than that. We're watching for spotty showers off and on throughout the day, so by no means is it a wash. We just don't get that brilliant sunshine. We're watching this kind of low sitting with us over the next couple of days. It doesn't really start to dissipate in full until we get in towards the end of the week. We're also kind of watching for heavier showers Tuesday night into Wednesday, so that could cause some localized flooding, so a heads up for people who live in flood-prone areas. Through the rest of our evening, though,
it's just cloudy out there, maybe a little drizzle. It really isn't until we get in again into the end of Tuesday that things get a little more intense. Spotty showers off and on for your Tuesday, but the commute to and from work should be okay. Into the afternoon, again, we're looking at pockets of shower activity. It is heavier east of us and towards areas through Peterborough. As we head through the overnight Tuesday into Wednesday, again, there's that chance of showers, heavy at times, and the risk of some thunderstorm activity, and then it starts to push out. We don't really see a full clearing of this system again until we get into probably the midpoint of our Thursday. Temperature-wise, although we are closer to seasonal, it still feels quite muggy out there. The relative humidity is still quite high. As we head in towards our Tuesday, our Wednesday, again, spotty showers, those overnight lows staying well above where they should be. We see the sunshine return. We see that heat start to lift a little bit. Although we stay kind of around the seasonal mark as we head in towards our Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the overnight lows get a little closer to where we should be, so we lose some of that real stickiness in the air. And then we start to hold on to sunshine until we head into about Sunday, where there's a chance of maybe a passing shower, but by no means will it be like it is today, tomorrow, and then through our Wednesday. So we are kind of tiptoeing in towards the end of the month, very much how we started it with some active weather, but overall it does stay quite nice temperature-wise, and we settle in towards the end of the month in a very sunny and mostly seasonal way. Michelle, something's back over to you.
A lot to look forward to. Thank you, Jess.
Thanks.
Also tonight, a promising cancer drug coupled with a fast-track new process in Canada, giving In health news tonight, a new drug is available for people battling cancer.
It treats an aggressive form of lymphoma, and there's also a way for patients to get fast access to the treatment. CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan explains.
No doubt Darren Bissett is a better hockey player than he is a bell ringer, but 6 years after celebrating his first remission, he detected a return of his diffuse large B-cell lymphoma.
Because I played hockey a lot, every time I bent over to tie a skate, I'd actually feel something weird there.
It was in his abdomen, and Bissett began CAR T-cell therapy, which was successful. But he knows he could have to fight lymphoma again. That's why the approval of a new immunotherapy drug called Epkinly gives him hope.
Is aimed at activating T cells. So it's been genetically made through recombinant technology in the lab.
And just as important, the subcutaneous injection is being fast-tracked to Canadian patients through a new process.
The Canadian Drug Agency has now provided a time-limited reimbursement.
Typically, government funding for a new drug comes after years of phase 1, 2, and 3 trials. Now, the time-limited reimbursement will make the drug available after just phase 2.
Now, the Canadian Drug Agency does this with the requirements that the pharmaceutical company that is developing the drug will still do that phase 3 trial or those phase 3 trials and provide the information to the Canadian Drug Agency.
For Epkinly, phase 2 results were very promising.
Epkinly, the response rate was between 60 and 70%, which is quite high, including about half of those being complete responses, which is very exciting because, again, these are patients with very end-stage lymphoma.
Bissett says for cancer patients, anxiety is already high.
When you know there's something there, but you can't access it, it's like seeing that carrot but never being able to reach it.
Knowing Epkinly is available more quickly through this process is a relief for him and many other lymphoma patients. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
A special tribute's in the works this week for the late James Earl Jones. The lights of Broadway are set to be dimmed to honor the award-winning actor, who racked up awards and achievements on the stage and the screen with his voice work as well. There's also a New York theater that was rededicated in his name in 2022. The marquee lights will go dark for 1 minute at 6:45 p.m. Thursday. James Earl Jones died September 9th at the age of 93.
Closer to home, Mirvish says the new Canadian production of musical hit Come From Away is getting a positive response from Toronto audiences. The show tells the story of stranded travelers who find a warm welcome in Newfoundland in the wake of the 9/11 attacks. Performances began at the Royal Alex Theatre yesterday, and the run has been extended to March, with Mirvish citing popular demand.
After the break, it's a final slam dunk. Former Raptor Vince Carter will be the first player in team history to have his jersey lifted to the rafters.
A Updating our top stories, Hassan Ali, also known under his rap name Top 5, walked free out of a Toronto courtroom today after charges against him in the fatal 2021 shooting of Hashim Omar Hashi were stayed. The Crown said it took the step after a judge ruled social media evidence in the case could not be presented. Ali maintains his innocence.
But if you're healthy, get off your ASS and start working like everyone else is.
Premier Doug Ford is coming under fire for making those comments about people living in encampments while he was at a housing announcement in Cobourg. Opposition parties said people have found themselves in encampments because of soaring rent and insufficient supports, and called the Premier's comments heartless and out of touch.
The issue is going to be how fast can they move on it.
And there's a renewed focus at Toronto City Hall on dealing with gridlock. The mayor outlined a plan to increase fines for drivers who block lanes and implementing better coordination of closures and construction. This comes as the city seeks permission from the province to use automated enforcement cameras for more offenses and amid a growing debate over bike lane rules.
Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have a news tip, photos, or video breaking news, let us know.
Canadian and U.S. stocks closed at new record highs today, but concerns are emerging that investors are just too eager to take risks. Andrew Bellaby in Bloomberg has the details.
Hello there. The big interest rate cut by the U.S. Federal Reserve last week has helped push stocks to record highs, with Canada and the U.S. setting records again today. But there's a sense of unease accompanying the gains. Bank of America strategist Michael Hartnett says euphoria in stocks is stoking the risk of a market bubble, and he suggests buying bonds and gold as insurance. And there are fears that the pace of rate cuts may slow. Holger Schmieding, an economist at the German bank Berenberg, warns, quote, "We continue to believe that central banks will have less leeway to ease in 2025 than they and many investors believe." The economist cites continued government deficits, persistent inflation pressure, and long-term labor shortages. On the markets, the Canadian dollar changed hands at 74.04 US cents, up 1/3 of a cent. West Texas Intermediate oil was at $70.37, down 63 cents. Our latest fix on Western Canadian Select oil, $56.67 US a barrel, up 9 cents. And the TSX Composite ended the day at its new record high of 23,894.71, up just over 27 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Some new emojis are making their way to your phone this month. The nonprofit that oversees global emoji standards approved 8 new colorful icons to spice up your text messages and social media posts. They include a tired-looking face with bags under his eyes and symbols, including a fingerprint, a spooky-looking tree, a harp, and a shovel. They're expected to appear on smartphones throughout the next year.
In sports, the Toronto Raptors are set to retire Vince Carter's number 15 this season. Sources tell TSN a ceremony will be held prior to a game on November 2nd, and Carter will be the first player to have his number retired by the franchise. He spent 7 seasons with the Raptors, winning Rookie of the Year, and was a 6-time All-Star. Carter also led the Raps to their first ever playoff appearance in 2000.
As far as jersey retirements go, this is actually pretty unique in that we know there's a long and complicated history between the player and the franchise, the fan base, and even internally, I can tell you that there was a bit of a split. There are high-ranking people in the organization who strongly believed and still believe that Kyle Lowry's jersey should be the first to go into the rafters.
Carter is the only player in NBA history to appear in 22 seasons and will be inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame next month.
The Blue Jays will begin their final homestand of the season tonight when they open a series with the Boston Red Sox.
It's pretty remarkable.
Hey, here's Aranda getting all the one high and deep, and that baby is gone. He did it again.
The Jays wrapped up their final road trip of the season against the Tampa Bay Rays yesterday afternoon. The Rays came out on top, beating the Jays 4-3 and sweeping them out of town. First pitch for tonight's game against Boston is set for just after 7.
The Maple Leafs returned to the ice at Scotiabank Arena last night, taking on the Ottawa Senators in their first preseason game.
Project work, here's Barter, in front, scores! Matthew Nyes has tied it.
It was a high-scoring affair, with the Leafs scoring 4 goals in the third period to send the game into overtime. However, the Senators came out on top in the extra period, securing a 6-5 win. The teams will face off again on Tuesday in Ottawa. The Leafs open the regular season in Montreal October 9th.
I think something else might right up. Holy, in front of CP24 in the world.
It may not have been the outcome fans were hoping for, but one couple found a way to cherish the moment. A man proposed to his partner out on the street after the game, flanked by someone in a Spider-Man costume. The bride-to-be told CP24 it was a dream come true to see the Leafs live in action, and the proposal made the night even more special. And for the record, she said yes.
Congratulations. The Argonauts are joining the CFL to support truth and reconciliation with new Indigenous-inspired logos.
As Indigenous people, we believe that we are truly connected to the land and the place that we call home. Every little thing in this world is connected in one way or another, and so I try and include that in my paintings and my artwork.
The logo was designed in partnership with Emily Kiwagishig, an Anishinaabe artist and visual storyteller from Saugeen First Nation. Number 29. The logo will be featured on players' helmets during a September 28th game against the Montreal Alouettes at BMO Field. That is the team's annual orange jersey game, which honors the impact and experiences of Indigenous communities on both football and Toronto.
Just ahead, from viral sensation to big screen movie star, how a memorable moment on CTV News landed this Toronto kid a role in a major film.
Tonight, Michael Kovrick reflects on his ordeal.
What that experience taught me is, at a deep, philosophical, visceral level, just what freedom really is.
CTV's Omar Satijina in a candid interview with the former diplomat tonight at 11.
And a reminder, the CTV News at 6 podcast is available as a download every weeknight. And a special shout out to those of you listening to the newscast live on News Talk 1010.
Autumn is officially here, but hopefully scenes like this are still far away.
Far, far away. Now, you might remember this young man who became a viral sensation clearing snow in Toronto more than 2 years ago. CTV News did a story on him, and it turns out Hollywood has taken notice. CTV's Scott Lightfoot explains.
He's a little older now, but you might remember then 9-year-old Carter Trizzolo from a chance appearance right here on CTV News back in January of 2022.
Tiring.
Trizzolo's exhausted shoveling after a major snowstorm made him a viral sensation. The clip of his precipitation exasperation was viewed millions of times online.
My entire family is like, there's Mr. Famous everywhere I went for the next 7 months.
I wish you were here. I want to hug you so hard. You're so cute.
It even led to him doing interviews around the globe. It was that viral moment that made Trizzolo, now 11, realize he may just have a future in front of the camera.
Agents were reaching out, and we talked, and I said, yeah, sure, let's try it.
2 years later, he's one of the stars of My Old Ass, a coming-of-age movie with a twist. As part of this film, Trizzolo got to attend film festivals.
I went to Sundance, I think it was last year.
Did you even know what Sundance was?
No, I had no idea what it was.
That's where the movie's director admitted his viral moment wasn't what landed him the role.
The snow shoveling kid who was like complaining in the news about wishing he was at school on a snow day, which I didn't know until after I cast him, but full of personality.
Trizzolo plans to take that personality as far as it can go as an actor.
I want to try a horror film. I don't want to watch it, but I just want to try it because just see the process of it.
And the star turn hasn't gone to his head.
But you don't have a bunch of Hollywood assistants that are going to come help you shovel.
No. The only assistant I have is my mom. It's a good assistant.
He says when the snow falls this winter,
I am 100% definitely shoveling as soon as I see snow come out.
Because it might change your life again.
It might. It might. And yeah, I'm excited for winter.
Scott Lightfoot, CTV News.
What a great story.
I'm excited to see what happens next. The name of his first movie, okay, that's hilarious.
Listen, you know what? He's taking this and running with it, and I think it is fabulous. And the weather does so many great things for people.
Yes.
And today, maybe if you like rain, it was great for you. The snow, we're so far away from that, so he'll have a while to go before he has to shovel again. But we are looking at some potentially significant rain as we head throughout the first half of the week. But it's not a wash by any means, and we will see sunshine before it is all said and done. Cloud cover right now for the most part, still some light drizzle out there, and we're holding on temperature-wise, not too shabby, sitting at 20, feeling like 26, still pretty hot through Niagara and over towards Windsor. As we make our way throughout the rest of the week, the rain kind of holds on till about Wednesday, and then look at that sunshine. I will take it as we settle into the first full week of autumn.
It'll be worth it. Thank you, Jess. That's it for us, but you can join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman with your next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and all of us here at CTV News, thanks for watching and have a great night.